In Module 6, we discuss the second part of employee development and discuss Chapter 9, which is performance management skills. This chapter discusses how having managers that have the necessary skills helps employees improve their performance and reach long-term goals. The first discussion that is brought up is coaching. So coaching is defined by the textbook as a collaborative, ongoing process in which the manager interacts with his or her employees and takes an active role and interest in their performance. Coaching involves directing, motivating, and rewarding employee behavior. It involves observing performance, complimenting good work, and helping to correct and improve any performance that does not meet expectations and standards. Coaching is focused on long-term performance and involves ensuring that developmental plan is being achieved. There are four main guiding principles that provide a good framework for successful coaching. The first being that a good coaching relationship is essential, meaning that it is important for the relationship between the coach and the employee to be trusting and collaborative. One of the first things that the coach should do to support this relationship is to listen in order to understand. The coach should then search for positive aspects. The third thing the coach needs to understand is that coaching is not something done to the employee, but done with the employee. Two of the main things that a coach should approach the employee with are empathy and compassion. The next principle is that the employee is the source and director of change. This means that the coach needs to help the employee with setting the agenda, goals, and direction, and make sure that the employee is the driving force behind everything. The next principle that the coach must remember is that each employee is a unique identity and that it is beneficial for the coach to help the employee connect his life and work experiences in meaningful ways. There are three main functions of coaching. The first is giving advice, then it's providing employees with guidance, and then it's providing support. As a coach, it is important to engage in the following: establishing developmental objectives, communicating effectively, motivate employees, document performance, giving feedback, diagnosing performance problems, and developing employees. There are four main coaching styles, and the first is a driver. The driver is assertive, they speak quickly and often firmly. They usually talk about tasks and facts, not expressive, and expose a narrow range of personal feelings to others. Next is the persuader. So a persuader is assertive. They use expansive body gestures, talk more about people and relationships, and expose the other to a broad range of personal feelings. And there's the amiable coaching style, which is not very assertive, and they speak deliberately and pause often. They make more conditional statements than the first two. Finally, there's the analyzer, who's not assertive, but they do like to talk about tasks and facts instead of personal feelings. The coaching process is a 5-step process. The first is setting developmental goals. So these goals must be reasonable, attainable, and derived from a careful analysis of the area in which an employee needs to improve. Then it is the second step, which is identifying resources and strategies that will help employees achieve the developmental goals that are set. Then step 3 is implementing these strategies that will allow employees to reach developmental goals. The last two coaching process steps are gone over in more detail in the next two slides, and they are observing and documenting developmental behavior and giving feedback. So giving feedback can help build confidence, develop competence, and enhance involvement. Feedback is information about the past behavior that is given with the goal of improving future performance. This includes both positive and negative aspects of job performance and lets employees know how well they are doing with respect to meeting the goals. Some suggestions to enhance feedback are just timeliness of giving feedback, frequency, specificity, variability, consistency, privacy, and consequences. It's also important to describe first and evaluate second. So performance review meetings can sometimes be uncomfortable, as it is seen as a meeting between a supervisor or a coach and an employee. So in the steps of the meeting is first explaining the purpose of the meeting, which will help ease the situation. Then you should have the employee conduct a self-appraisal of how they believe they are doing. Once they are done with their self-appraisal, the next step is to share the ratings and explain the rationale behind these ratings. This is where sometimes it could be difficult and get uncomfortable. The fourth step is discussing development. And then the fifth step is to ask an employee to summarize what was discussed in the review meeting. Then there's the discussion of rewards, and then step 7 is holding a follow-up meeting. This is important as it can set a time frame for the goal to be achieved. Step 8 is discussing approval and appeals process, and then step 9 is to conduct a final recap of the whole performance review meeting. There are 6 goals that should be met in all of performance review meetings, and whether they are met all together in one or just one at a time Still important to have a system inauguration goal, a self-appraisal goal, a merit and salary review goal, a developmental plan goal, and an objective setting goal. Sometimes it can be happening when there's a defensive response, and there are some ways to prevent this defensive response, such as establishing and maintaining rapport, being empathetic, being open-minded, observing verbal and nonverbal cues, minimizing threats, and encouraging participation from the employee. So for the questions for this module, I picked two that are pretty similar. The first one is that there is an assessment in 9.2 case study for the coaching styles. I would like y'all to look at the assessment and just look at the words used and even maybe complete it yourself. And then answer the question of, when looking at the assessment, which coaching style/assessment terms as a Christian are the most spiritually guided and can help a coach keep Christ in their coaching style? For the second question, there's a theoretical one where you are in a performance review meeting with an employee who believes that they are succeeding greatly at their job, but you're the supervisor and see more weaknesses than strengths with that employee. How would you go about giving that employee coaching?